Welcome to the Utah NHL Team Podcast, where we'll be diving into everything you need to know to be a day one fan and to be extremely excited for this team as it comes to Salt Lake City this year. I'm going to go ahead and dive into it right now. Episode 3 coming at you here. My name's Hayden, and I got some new segments for you today. Some new fun stuff that we're going to be bringing to the pod, hopefully on a regular basis. But the first thing I want to get to today is I just watched a live press conference of I guess he's still probably technically considered the Arizona Coyotes owner, Alex Meruelo and Gary Bettman, in front of a angry herd of Arizona reporters, rightfully so. If you're a fan of the Arizona Coyotes, there's a lot of frustrations, a lot of emotions to the team being leaved. On the Salt Lake side of things, watching it as a perspective of someone that's really excited about the team coming here, I felt bad for those two standing up there and getting asked these questions about poor leadership and financials and regrets that they had and where it all went wrong and lack of communication that we've seen. As a fan, sometimes we forget that they're people too. And when you actually look at somebody and watch them answer these questions, you can't feel but a little bit bad for Gary Bettman and Alex as they stood up there. And, kudos to them to embracing those questions and really trying their best to answer. I do think they still, skirted quite a few things. Basically, answer to every response was, hey, we did this really quickly in 3 to 4 weeks. We didn't really know what it was going to look like. Smith Entertainment Group, Ryan and Ashley, were willing to move quickly, so they did. And they didn't get everything done, and they couldn't communicate it to the fans or the public because they just didn't know what was going to happen and how it was going to happen in each moment. I think that is fair on their side of things, that you just don't know until there's a signature on the dotted line. And I agree with that. But I also think that the fans and the organization probably deserve to know, like, hey, it's very likely that you're going to be moving. We just don't know if it's for sure yet. Like, is it really that hard to communicate that to your staff and your players? And, I think that obviously there's a lot of corporate things in play and lawyers in play, and you have to be careful about what you say. But, I just didn't quite feel satisfied with their response about, the reasoning for the way that everything was rolled out. Quickly, it felt, was just because they didn't want to say it was done until it was done. Today is the 19th, Friday the 19th, and they said that the signatures didn't even come in until this morning for the deal. So, to give you perspective on how this has really not been completed until today, whereas, I have been 100% confident that the team is moving here for probably 4 days now. So, really, that's not a ton of time as a heads up to know that the possibility of moving here. I've obviously been following a lot of the tweets and notifications and leaks from the past year that, hey, Ryan Smith and Gary Bettman met and they discussed the possibility of an expansion team. And honestly, it was kind of nice to get some insight from the commissioner side, Gary Bettman. He mentioned that Ryan came to them with, and we've all, or a lot of us have seen this online, but a very intentional offer for an expansion team, and probably would have preferred the timeline of an expansion team, honestly, because there's still a lot of work to do here in Utah. Names, logos, stadium. There's a lot to be done in a short period of time, and essentially they knew that they wanted a team to come to Utah. They didn't know when. And then with Arizona Coyotes being geographically relatively close, it made sense for the schedule, made sense for the TV rights. They did say, I think this is really interesting actually. In a past life, I was a big Colorado Avalanche fan. That's where I grew up, and that'll always have a special place in my heart. Here in Utah, we have been blacked out of the games in Colorado. So we've been lumped with the Colorado and Vegas markets, TV region wise. So they are realigning the NHL now to be aligned with Arizona, meaning that, from what I understand, Colorado and Vegas games are no longer going to be blocked out because they're going to be considered out of market here in Utah. So we'll be able to watch those games, and we're going to get our own team. So this is total win across the board for me and my hockey viewership. I'll be able to watch all the teams that I want. We're going to be in the Arizona market, lumped with Arizona market TV rights wise. So that's huge news. I like that. Utah, we're not going to be blacked out from a couple of other NHL teams. So more hockey that everybody can watch. I really appreciated that, and I think that's something to be excited about. The last thing I'll say about this conference is there was a lot of talk about bringing the Coyotes back and what it looks like. I want to clarify. It sounds like there isn't an opportunity really for Alex Meruelo to hold on to these rights to the Arizona Coyotes and the logos, and for the NHL, he can't flip these. There's been a lot of notifications that, hey, he could just hold on to the money he's receiving from selling the team and then sell it back to the NHL in 5 years, and he's going to make a ton of money. He can't do that. Essentially what happens is he has 5 years to build a stadium. If he does that within 5 years, they'll give him an expansion team. The expansion team will operate very much like the Seattle Kraken and Vegas Knights did, which is they got to take essentially a player from every single team. Each team got to protect, I believe it was 7 or 6 players. They got to protect 6 players, and so you basically get the 7th best player on every team, is another way of thinking of how that team's created. And honestly, you think that would be a really tough start, but look at Vegas, look at Seattle. These are 2 teams that have been competitive immediately with this expansion style. So I would expect the same when if Arizona gets to that point, when they get an expansion team, they will be able to compete. And I think that rivalry is going to be massive between Utah and Arizona. There's going to be a huge rivalry automatically. I think we've already probably got a pretty substantial rivalry to look forward to with Vegas, both being in the Pacific Division. That's going to be a big one, probably Seattle and all the California teams as well. So there was, immense optimism from Gary Bettman and Alex Meruelo about this future stadium to work out in the 5 years. He believes that he'll be able to do it. Interesting tidbit too is if he does do it, he can't sell the team for another 5 years after they build the stadium. So essentially, he's locked into 10 years of ownership to be a part of the Arizona Coyotes. And that's pretty much the recap from the interview, or I guess the press conference, technically, that they had today. Go ahead and moving over to segment number 2. This one was requested to me after the first 2 pods dropped. And honestly, I love talking about this. It is what I'm going to call Hockey Talky, where we break down hockey jargon and terms, phrases that are unique to hockey, that are fun. And honestly, the jargon's a different language. It's a different beast out there. You hear it at all different levels, from mites to juniors to high school hockey to college to pros. They all use the same lingo. It's truly amazing. Today, I'm going to be going over 3 specific words that I think are really fun to use, all related to game stats. So the game stats I'm going to be talking about today is goal, very straightforward, assists, and then what's called plus minus. So assists are slightly different in hockey than any other sport. Assists are awarded to the last 2 players that have touched the puck since the goal was scored or before the goal was scored. So Player X passes to player Y. Player Y passes to player Z scores. Players X and Y both receive 1 assist for that play. So keep that in mind. And then what happens with the plus minus is a plus minus is awarded to a player. If you're on the ice and your team scores a goal, you get +1. And then if you're on the ice and the other team scores a goal, that's -1. And this is a running total. You can break it into segments. Maybe it's like, for this game, I was +2, or for the season, maybe I'm -14 over the season. These are stats that you can look at. So what I want to start with is goals. So another way to say, hey, are you going to score a goal tonight, would be, hey, are you going to get a Gino tonight? A Gino would be another word that you can use for a goal. Or you say, hey, nice Gino yesterday. Or that was a sick Gino. Those would be all different ways that you could, use hockey terminology to sound like you live in the game. It would be Gino for goal. Secondly, let's go to assist now. So I actually don't know the origin of any of these words, to be honest. Maybe a few of them I might know, but Gino, I think it's because it just starts with a G, and oftentimes on box scores you'll see G. So G for Gino. A would be A for apple. So when someone says, I got an apple, or did you get an apple on that? Then that would be, I got an assist. Did you get an assist on that goal? So you could say, hey, how many apples did you get last night? Hey, how many assists did you get during the game? Or, hey, that was a really sick apple. Like same vernacular, same usage as you would assist, but apple. Last one I'm going to talk about, pretty straightforward again with plus minus, is you could say -1 or just -1. You could say, oh, hey, he's -1 tonight. Or, hey, he's -1 tonight. Means, hey, that guy has been on the ice during one of the other team's goals. If you're having a really great night, you could say, hey, I'm +4 tonight. Or you could say, hey, that player's +3 tonight. Means that they've been out there for 3 of the goals, and either, they've been out there for 3 more goals than they have of the other teams scoring. So if a player's having a bad night, you might say, hey, that player's -5, meaning that the other team has scored 5 more goals than your team has when that player's on the ice. So -1, -2, you don't want it. You don't want to be dash. You don't want to be minus. You want to be in the plus. You want to say, hey, I'm +3 tonight. Or, hey, that player's +3. So in a full sentence, you could say, Nathan MacKinnon is +3 tonight. He got 1 Gino and 2 apples. That would be a common sentence that you could say about Nathan MacKinnon. Have a great night. That's it for Hockey Talky, and I'll bring you back some new words and some new jargon next time. Segment number 3. Today, segment number 3 is going to be about the NHL and what's going on. We've got the first round of the playoffs happening tomorrow. So today I'll be giving predictions for the first round. I think that the first round of the NHL playoffs is like the first Thursday and Friday of March Madness. It is insane. They're going to be doing a staggered start this year. So every hour or so, there's going to be another game starting all day. Sunday, Saturday is when it's going to be kicking off. So we're going to be able to watch games nonstop. You can actually just watch third period after third period after third period. It's amazing. The intensity levels are so high during the playoffs, and every game matters. It's best of 7 series, similar to baseball and basketball. So it'll be a great thing to start watching if you want to become an NHL fan, get an idea of what it's like, because our Utah team, this is going to be our goal next year, to make it to the first round of the playoffs, make it through the first round of the playoffs. But the Arizona Coyotes haven't been to the playoffs in a while, so that's going to be I think a season goal for our team here. So diving into the playoffs this year, we've got round 1 matchup. The Central number 1 seed of the Central Division, Dallas, will be playing the wild card 2, the second place wild card team, the Las Vegas Knights. So kind of a tough draw for winning your division that you have to play Vegas. Vegas is known for doing what we call cap circumvention, which means that they exceed the cap throughout the year, and then the way that they're able to get away with it is they just put their players on the injured reserve list. So what that means is each team has a salary cap, about $82 million per team is what they can spend on players. Vegas will spend their 82, and then when someone goes on to injured reserve, they do not count towards the salary cap anymore. So what they do is they pile players into their injury reserve, and then they go out during free agency or to the trade deadline and they get more players. So their total team far exceeds the salary cap, but they have players that are injured, with quotations, that aren't counting towards their salary cap during the season. In the playoffs, there is no salary cap, so they can bring everybody and anybody back onto their team that they want, which is crazy. So if you're Dallas and you've had a great regular season and you're got the number 1 seed in the West and you're feeling good, to draw a team that is supposed to be one of your easier opponents, the wild card 2 team, the last team to get into the playoffs from the West, and to have it be Vegas is pretty tough. I do think that Dallas is going to be able to overcome it, though. Dallas is just deep, and they've added some core defensemen at the trade deadline, and they are really looking good and strong into the playoffs as well. So my prediction is going to be 4-2. So Dallas is going to win in Game 6. It'll go to Game 6, and then they'll advance to round 2. Next matchup will be Winnipeg versus Colorado. This is a tough one. I think that most fans would say, hey, Colorado's going to win that. Colorado actually has had some complications down the line of the season. Their goaltending has been shaky. They just lost Jonathan Drouin, who's a player that's played in their top 6 forwards and on their top line for the majority of the year, and really is having a great season. He's going to miss the whole first round. So with that being said, I see it going 7 games. It's going to go to the 7th game, and I want to say Colorado is going to be able to pull it out in 7 games. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be a gauntlet for them. Winnipeg's depth is really great, and they're going to wear them down. Colorado's going to have to win on the road. I think that's really what's going to come down to, is if Winnipeg can steal a game in Colorado, they'll have the advantage. And if Colorado can steal a game in Winnipeg, they're going to have a significant advantage. Both these teams very strong at home, so look for that. If a team can win on the road, I think that's going to be the team that wins the series. Moving on to Vancouver versus Nashville. So Vancouver was the number 1 seed in the Pacific, and they'll be going against the wild card 1, or the top wild card team, which was Nashville, who seemingly looked like they were out of the playoffs for most of the year. Won on an absolute heater at the end, winning, it was at one point 10 in a row. And this team has really pulled itself together and is playing good. So again, kind of a tough draw. If you win the Pacific Division, you're number 1. You're hoping to get an easier team, but you get the team that's probably the hottest team in the NHL right now, as far as the last 2 months go. So that's going to be tough. I do think Vancouver's got the skill, the high-end skill that Nashville's kind of missing right now. I think that game, I'm going to give it 5. I'm actually going to say Vancouver in Game 5, 4-1 in the game total. I just think Vancouver is going to be too skilled to not win this. And then for the 3rd year in a row, we've got Edmonton versus the LA Kings. The LA Kings have given the Edmonton Oilers a tough first round, but they lose every time. So I think it's going to be history is going to repeat itself again. The Oilers, Edmonton, and Draisaitl, they're Connor McDavid. You just can't pick against them at this point. So I think it's going to go I think Edmonton's got them figured out at this point. These series have gone to 7, and they've been really tight. I don't think this one's going to be that tight. I think it's going to be Edmonton in 5. That's going to be I think the most blowout or for the separation between two teams in the West. That they're out of these first round matchups. I think Edmonton is much better than they've been in the past, and they're starting to figure out how to play in the playoffs. So I think that they'll be able to handle the Kings pretty quickly here. Moving over to the East, we've got Florida versus Tampa Bay, or Florida Lauderdale versus Tampa Bay. So there's 2 Florida teams, the Panthers and Lightning. Lightning have had an incredible run the last 5 years or so. They're on the downswing now, though. They really struggled this year. If it wasn't for Nikita Kucherov, their team wouldn't even be in the playoffs. I would say Florida, top team in the East. Them and the Rangers are 1-2. So I would say Florida going to overcome their in-state rival, Tampa Bay. I'm going to say it in 6, though, because in-state rivalry, these two teams, they play each other often. They know each other well. It's going to be close, but I think Florida's going to, the Panthers are going to go ahead and take this one in 6. It's 4-2, Florida Panthers. Moving to another great rivalry, some original 6 teams. We've got Boston versus Toronto in the East. This is going to be an amazing matchup. Toronto's, they did finally make it past the first round last year. They had an incredibly long drought of making the playoffs and losing the first round every single year for as long as I can remember. And Boston is just a team that knows how to win, has a winning history. It doesn't really matter who's in the lineup, who's out of the lineup. It's just the organization as a whole knows how to win. I'm going to take Boston in this series. I'm saying Toronto, you're going right back to your old ways and losing in the first round. I got Toronto losing in 7. So Boston to beat Toronto in Game 7. Moving down to the other top dog in the East, New York Rangers, playing against the Washington Capitals. The Capitals ended up winning a 4-team race for the last spot in the playoffs in the East, and to be honest, they're probably what on paper would be the least deserving team. They had tons of extra points in overtime, and they've had the worst goal differential. Their running goal differential from goals scored versus goals scored against throughout the entire year is the highest the worst that any team has ever had to make the playoffs, which is incredible. So when they win by 1 goal, and when they lose by 7. This is kind of how it goes for them. I got a sweep here. I got the Rangers winning in 4. I think this is going to be a quick bounce for Ovechkin. Hopefully he gets a couple goals in there, but it's going to be a quick 4-game series for the Rangers in Washington. Last matchup is going to be the Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Islanders. I think this is another pretty quick one. It's going to be in 5. Carolina's going to win this one. Patrick Waugh, the new coach of the Islanders, giving them a good push at the end of the year. But that team just it doesn't have, again, like the star power or the or the I would call it the dog in them. The Carolina Hurricanes, they play their man-to-man, extremely unique system, and they've been so close for so many years to making it to a cup final. So much experience this team is driven. You can tell when teams make it to round 2 and they make it to the conference finals and they lose year after year, they start to really understand the playoffs. And I think this team's really positioned themselves well the whole year. So I would expect them to pull it out here. So just to recap, I've got Dallas beating Vegas. I've got Colorado beating Winnipeg. I've got Vancouver over Nashville, Edmonton over the Kings, Florida Panthers over Tampa Bay Lightning, Boston over Toronto, Rangers over Washington, and Carolina over New York Islanders in round 1. So start watching tonight, then again tomorrow, you're going to see a montage of great games. It's going to be going on all week. Highly recommend tuning in, getting a taste of what the playoffs is like. It'll just be so much greater when we have our local team in the mix as well. So that's it for today. Appreciate everybody hopping on. I'm still figuring out how to do this, and I think every episode's getting a little better and better. So I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten, all the friends and family that are listening. Shout out, and everybody have a great weekend and enjoy round one.